Hi, hello. I'm Daniel Starr, Dan for short, and I'm a self-taught hobby artist. So, in this video, I wanted to talk about representation as a whole, forced representation, and representation in my project, and also my overall thoughts on representation. I will split this video into chapters. So feel free to skip anything and just go to the part you like. If you like to listen to art commentary videos while driving, then go ahead and grab your tablet or your notebook and let's get to it. Okay, so I'm sure everyone knows what representation is. But what is forced representation? Many even argue forced representation doesn't exist, but I think it does. Forced representation is representation that is there only because it feels forced, because someone feels under pressure to add representation and doesn't truly care for representing any minority. Now, I can see why people think this could still be good representation, because you got greedy corporation that can just be discriminatory and need to be forced into representing minorities. But this can also apply to young artists. It can also apply to small internet artists. And I think that forced representation just sucks. It's representation that has no actual love behind it, no passion. It's just there because people feel forced to put it there. People feel pressured into doing it. They don't do it because they truly want to. And I think when it comes to representation, it's really important to actually want to represent. If someone doesn't care enough for representation and doesn't do it because they want to, they can come off as even racist, discriminatory, and offensive due to accidentally including stereotypes in their work. That definitely doesn't seem like it's good, right? So I think yes, forced representation exists and it's bad and shouldn't. So next up is representation in media. Representation in media can be a forced representation or representation for the sake of money grab, which both suck, but at least sometimes it can come off as decent representation. I personally loved intentional, passionate representation. Projects that represent because they want to and because they maybe even have a connection to the thing they're representing are usually ones that I enjoy quite a bit. I think most people can tell when someone genuinely enjoys representing something and puts their heart into it. I think a great example of this would be, let's say, Hira. I think their representation is great. It's not based on any stereotypes as far as I see, or at least not very visibly, because I watch it and I never saw any stereotypes, any toxic portrayal. I love their representation actually. I have to admit I prefer indie representation because usually indie creators represent just because they want to represent, and that's actually usually very great. I can think of an indie creation that I think the representation in it fucking sucks, but I don't really want to mention it here too much. So yeah, there are exceptions to everything, and just because something is majorly good doesn't mean there's gonna not gonna be something bad. So let's just skip that. And now I'm gonna get to the next topic, which is my own project. Yay! So I'm gonna just give a short summary. I don't really want to yap about the basics too much. So, the project Biblical Destiny is an independent project about a bunch of biblical characters and the apocalypse. The main inspiration for this is actually Judaism, and the second most is Christianity. I also took representation from the TV series Supernatural, which is actually amazing. And if you haven't watched it and feel like watching 15 seasons of an amazing show, go ahead. I think it's available on HBO Max. That's where I watched it. I'm not sure where else it's available. Just maybe refrain from interacting with the fandom. It can get a bit messy. So, yeah. And the main characters are a chosen one, a human, whose name is Dominic Mada, and he is a French guy, which I'm European and not French, so it's generally expected of us to make fun of France, which we still do, but I really wanted to have a positive representation of France because I think their language is great, even though I can't speak it and I die inside whenever I say the word out. Well, and the second main character is AC, which is short for something I'm not gonna say yet. And he is angelic character, divine being. And there's more characters which I'm not gonna get into now. So representation in my project, I'd say I represent quite a few minorities. I prefer to represent actual nationalities and ethnicities rather than just race because it's crazy maybe to some, but for example, Europeans, I'm not gonna speak about Western Europeans, I'm gonna more of mention um Central Europeans, Nordics, Southern Europeans, and Eastern Europeans. Yeah, they don't usually appreciate being represented by an American character. Surprisingly, we don't even often really see ourselves with other Western Europeans like the British or the French or the Spanish. Mostly because some of us weren't even recognized as white until like the last century. So, yeah. Well, as I said, I prefer ethnicities and nationalities over just race. Race is kind of a social construct anyway. You know, you can have a black person from America and Africa, and they're gonna be very different because there's a culture difference. You can have a white person from Japan. I know Asians are POC, of course. I don't like the term because it sounds a lot like colored people, and that's racist. So, but they have pale skin. They have paler skin than most of us, actually. And they can be, let's say, as pale as Swedish people, and they're not gonna be the same. Even Europeans can be different from each other. I'm sure everyone knows how different Asia is from themselves because it's massive, that's expected. But even Europeans, if you look at Nordics and then you look at Southern Europeans, Nordics are like pale white, and it's way more common to be blonde in these countries and blue eyed, while Southern Europe, like let's say Sicily, will have a more tanned, darker skin. with darker eyes, usually brown eyes and brown hair. So I went off topic again, but I represent, I'd say, Jews a lot in my project because I'm taking from Judaism. It would be actually insane of me to not represent the Jews when I'm basically taking their holy books and being like, yeah, I'm gonna use this. And I'd say quite a few Europeans do. Mada is actually probably gonna be the only Western European in my story. I desperately want to represent the Slavs and maybe even the Nordics and other Eastern and Central Europeans. Fun fact, Mada was originally supposed to be German, a German Jew specifically, and his name was the same, but just instead of being spelled like Domi, Nyque, it was spelled like Nyk, which is the German way of spelling it. I also plan on having some African characters. I haven't even done concept art of most of my characters, so I don't have the exact ethnicities in mind yet. But I do have some countries in mind that I would love to represent. I don't really plan to represent religion too much because I do have Jewish representation because yeah, I'm taking from Judaism. I would be a fucking bitch if I just took their whole holy book and was like, I'm not gonna include the Jews. There's also Christian representation, but it's kind of toxic. I'm probably gonna add some positive one too, though, because I'm also thinking from Christianity, and I think it would be disrespectful to just represent them only in bad light. Because I know some Christians are great. I think Jesus. I don't think Jesus. I'm not Christian, so yeah, but I know Jesus was a real person, even if he wasn't the Son of God, and I think he was great. I think his teachings are amazing. I don't know why most people ignore them and just are hateful when they proclaim to be Christian. Yeah, so I think because he was so great, I have to include at least one good Christian. And I don't want to include other religions because that would, since my again my project is inspired by Judaism, it would automatically kind of mean the other faiths aren't the real ones, and I think it would be disrespectful if I portrayed it like that. So I did originally plan to include some mythologies because I love them and just want to include them. I'll see. If I find a way to do it respectfully, I will. If I don't, I won't. I have some LGBTQ representation in mind too, of course. I am queer. Specifically, I'm Arrow Ace, and yeah, I just want to represent my fellow people. And there's female characters there too. Some of them I actually love so much, but I'm having a stroke trying to work out how they're supposed to look, sadly. Um, and I also have some mental disorders and illnesses in mind that I want to include. I have to definitely include autism because I'm autistic. Honestly, when I was trying to figure out personalities of my characters, I realized that like half of the ones I tried to create were kind of giving autistic vibes, and then I realized I can't write characters, so I'm still working on that. Oopsies. And I think that's about it when it comes to representation, alright? Did I forget a group? I hope not. I very much hope not. So yeah. I plan to yap more about my project in the future if anyone is interested. I am open to questions about it. I might not answer some because I want to flesh out the part a bit more before I even speak about it, or I want to keep a part secret for a while. But I will usually respond to most questions, I'd say. And I just really love to yap about my characters. So if you ask about them, it's actually a high chance I will respond to you. So that's about it, I'd say. Now, put your questions in the comments. I read them all. I usually comments on my old channel, no matter how much there were. I plan to do the same now. Because if you took the time of your day to comment and watch my video, I can take the time to read your comment and interact with it. Even if I don't respond, I usually heart the comments I like, and I will delete some extremist comments. I am open to discussion on this video. For example, what are your thoughts on representation and stuff like that? Don't think I made my opinion specific, but yeah, I love representation if you want to hear it. If you have a different opinion, I am open to hearing it, but if I see any comments that are discriminatory or anything like that, I will just delete them. Yeah, no question asked, I will delete them. So yeah, that's all. Please hit the subscribe button. It's free. If you ever get bored of my videos, you can just unsubscribe. Like this video if you liked it. And see you next time. Bye bye.